You already know what it feels like. You lay down, the room is dark, everything is quiet, and yet your brain is absolutely wired. Your eyes are tired, your body is exhausted, but your mind is running a marathon at midnight. You stare at the ceiling, you check your phone, you stare at the ceiling again, and somehow before you even realize what happened, it is 2 in the morning and you have to be up in 5 hours. Sound familiar? Because what most people do not know is that this is not a willpower problem. This is not a discipline problem. This is a biological problem that is being triggered by something most of us do every single night without even thinking twice about it. And before we go any further, because I know some of you are already watching this and thinking you already know about blue light and screen time, stick with me for just a moment because what I am going to share with you is not the basic surface level information you have heard 100 times. This goes much deeper than that. This is about what is actually happening inside your brain, why it is so much harder to fix than people tell you, and why the advice most people follow is honestly making things worse. We have a program linked in the description below that helps people rebuild this from the inside out, and I am going to talk about that later, but I want to give you something real first because you deserve more than just a sales pitch. So let us start with the actual problem. Your body has an internal clock. Scientists call it the circadian rhythm. Think of it like a biological metronome that ticks inside every single cell in your body. Not just your brain, every cell telling your organs, your hormones, your digestive system, your immune system, exactly what time it is and exactly what to do based on that time. This internal clock was designed over hundreds of thousands of years to run on one primary signal, light. Specifically, the cycle of natural light and darkness that happens every single day on this planet. When the sun goes down and darkness sets in, your brain receives that signal and begins producing a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is not a sleeping pill, it is a timing signal. It tells your entire body that the dark cycle has begun, that it is time to slow down, cool down, and begin the process of rest and restoration. Here is where everything starts to fall apart for most people. The light that comes from your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your television screen, it is not neutral light. It is disproportionately weighted toward the blue end of the light spectrum. And your brain has a very specific type of photoreceptor, discovered relatively recently, called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which are extraordinarily sensitive to that exact wavelength. These cells send a signal directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, which is essentially the master controller of your circadian clock, and that signal says, very clearly, it is still daytime. Stop producing melatonin, stay alert, stay awake, stay wired. And this is not a subtle effect. Research from some of the most respected sleep laboratories in the world has shown that exposure to this type of light in the evening hours can suppress melatonin production by up to 90%. 90%. And it can delay the onset of melatonin release by up to 3 hours. That means if your body was naturally supposed to start winding down at 9 at night, it might not begin that process until midnight. Or later. And this is not happening because you are weak or undisciplined. It is happening because a device that was never designed with your biology in mind is sending a direct neurological signal to the most primitive part of your brain, overriding millions of years of evolutionary programming, every single night. And here is the part that really gets under your skin. Even when you do eventually fall asleep, the damage is already done. Your sleep architecture, the specific cycles of light sleep and deep sleep and REM sleep that your brain needs to cycle through in the right order at the right times, is completely disrupted. The deep sleep phases that are responsible for physical restoration, immune function, cellular repair, and the clearance of toxic waste products from the brain are shortened. The REM sleep phases that are responsible for emotional regulation, memory consolidation, creativity, and learning are fragmented. You might sleep 8 hours and still wake up feeling like you barely slept at all, and you are not imagining that. Your body is telling you something real. So let us talk about what this is actually costing you. Think about the last time you had a truly great night of sleep. Genuinely, think about how you felt the next morning, the clarity, the calmness, the sense that you could actually handle whatever the day threw at you. Now think about how many mornings have felt like the complete opposite of that, dragging yourself out of bed. Brain fog so thick you can barely form a sentence before noon, that low-grade irritability that sits just below the surface, making everything feel heavier than it needs to. That constant reaching for caffeine just to feel something close to functional. Now multiply that by weeks, by months, by years. Because for most people, this is not an occasional bad night. This is the baseline. This is just how life feels. And somewhere along the way, people just accepted it. They told themselves they were just not a morning person. They told themselves they just needed more coffee. They told themselves this was just what adulthood felt like. And that quiet acceptance might be the saddest part of all this, because the cognitive cost alone is staggering. Studies consistently show that chronic sleep disruption impairs prefrontal cortex function, which is the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, emotional regulation, and long-term thinking. You are not performing at your potential at work. You are not showing up the way you want to in your relationships. You are not making the decisions that the best version of you would make, and you may not even fully realize why, because the brain that would normally help you evaluate your own performance is the exact brain that has been compromised. And then there is the physical side. Disrupted sleep is linked to elevated cortisol levels, which keeps your body in a low-level chronic stress state. That stress state increases inflammation throughout the body. It disrupts appetite regulation hormones, making you crave high-calorie, high-sugar foods and making it much harder to feel satisfied after eating. It suppresses immune function. It increases cardiovascular strain. Sleep scientists have described poor sleep not just as a symptom of health problems, but as a root cause of them. This is not small. This is not something to just push through. And here is where the disqualification matters, because not everyone watching this is going to take this seriously. Some people are going to watch this, nod along, feel some urgency in the moment, and then go right back to scrolling through their phone in bed tonight. And that is honestly fine. This is not for everyone. Change is not for everyone. Some people are more comfortable with the familiar pain than with the unfamiliar process of doing something about it. But if you are the kind of person who actually connects what they are learning to action, if you feel something shifting right now and want to do something real about it, then keep watching, because I am going to show you exactly what is possible. Because here is what sleep actually feels like when it is working. When your circadian rhythm is intact, and your melatonin timing is correct, and your sleep architecture is cycling the way it was designed to, you wake up before your alarm. Not because you forced yourself to, but because your body has completed its work and is genuinely ready. You wake up with a clear head. The mental fog is just gone. Decision-making feels effortless. Emotional regulation is something you actually have access to, meaning the small frustrations of life do not detonate into disproportionate reactions. Your appetite is regulated. Your energy is steady throughout the day, not this roller coaster of caffeine spikes and afternoon crashes. Your immune system is functioning. Your recovery from physical exertion is faster. And perhaps the most underrated benefit of all, your relationship with your own mind improves. Anxiety levels drop. The background noise of worry and overthinking quiets down. Things just feel more manageable. People who have rebuilt their sleep routinely describe it as the single most impactful change they have ever made. Not a new diet, not a new exercise routine. Sleep. Because everything else in your life runs downstream from the quality of your rest. Productivity, mood, relationships, physical health, mental clarity, all of it is built on that foundation. And when that foundation is solid, everything built on top of it becomes better almost automatically. Now let us get practical about what this actually looks like. The first and most foundational change, the one that is supported by the most evidence and that makes the fastest measurable difference, is protecting the 2 hours before sleep from high-intensity blue light exposure. Not eliminating screens entirely, but creating a transition window where your biology can actually begin to shift into the rest cycle it needs. This matters more in those 2 hours than at any other point in the day. Your melatonin system is most vulnerable to light suppression in that window, and protecting it creates a compound effect over days and weeks that is genuinely transformative. There are also specific breathing patterns, body temperature strategies, and light exposure protocols in the morning that work in direct support of this, creating what researchers describe as a robust and anchored circadian rhythm that becomes increasingly self-reinforcing over time. The longer you do it, the better it works. The better it works, the easier it becomes. People who commit to this process for 30 days consistently describe a shift that feels almost unrecognizable compared to where they started. And if you want the full structured path through this, not just the pieces but the actual progression, the program linked in the description below exists specifically for this. And I want to say something honest. Most people who find this video are going to sit on that link. They are going to tell themselves they will check it out later. They are going to scroll past it. And nothing is going to change. The ceiling they are hitting is going to stay exactly where it is. But there are people watching this right now who recognize that later is how change never happens, that the right time is always the time when you actually feel it, and that this window of clarity is worth acting on. If that is you, go to the description right now. This is not going to wait for you to feel more ready. The best version of your sleep and everything that flows from it is already available. The only question is whether today is the day you choose it.